Balls Deep.
Hello,
Hello.
and welcome to Balls Deep,
Welcome.
episode 3. How exciting! So today we are speaking to you from the lovely city of Kuala Lumpur in our Airbnb in Ampang, and yeah, we've got a few things to talk about. We've got a lot of exciting things that have happened, things that we've explored, and things that we've learned. So we thought we'd start off by saying things that we've learned really on our recent travels. Bit of a well. In fact, you know what? You go ahead and start with yours, Scott. I think.
Me start? Okay. Well, yeah, the first one is you, so I'm not sure about that. Which one are you referring to? Because it literally says Shelby on the document as the first thing.
Well,
okay. So as you will have learnt if you listened to episode 1, I'm a man of format and planning. And Shelby, it's interesting because, you know, on the last episode 2, I said how we're not spontaneous, but then Shelby came to me after saying, you know what, I am spontaneous. And you know what, I think that's twofold. Is one, you're right, we are spontaneous. You know, we're not
indecisive. Clearly.
We're indecisive at times. We struggle with decisions, but at the end of the day, we push ourselves continuously to make decisions. So yes, I would say we struggle more than the average Joe in being spontaneous and making decisions, but I would say we do more than the average Joe in pushing ourselves to be spontaneous and make decisions. So it sort of balances out. And then I guess the other learning on that is I've always wondered this, because I've really gone off topic here, haven't I?
Yeah,
let's go with it anyway. Is podcasts, when you listen to them, I think, especially live podcasts, I mean, like Twitch streams, I mean, when people are live, you know, there's tons of live streamers these days. It's so easy just to say something and then even a minute later go, actually, no, I don't think I do believe that. And I do feel, you know, and we had that, you know, the spontaneous thing, you know, luckily it wasn't a cancelable thing.
Yeah, I was totally agree. It's like, yeah, we're not spontaneous. Then after I was like, wait a minute.
Exactly. But I think that's really interesting, because we've experienced now that thing where you know, it's so easy to be that keyboard warrior when you listen to podcasts and go, what a silly opinion that person's just said. Someone you may respect in the podcast game go, no, I don't agree with that. And everyone will hound them, and then you maybe the next episode go, you know what, they might admit, you know, that wasn't my thinking. It just, you know, we just say, it's not even that we say silly things. I think you're talking constantly. I think, you know, we try to answer things sometimes without thinking, or maybe we just, you know.
Well, yeah, and like based on the way that the conversation was going, is talking about, oh, we've planned things, we've planned that, you know, this is what we've planned, we've got everything lined up, that we're methodical, and it would logically follow from that we're not spontaneous. So like, you know, it's like, be like, oh yeah, no, we plan everything and we're just not super spontaneous, I guess. Like, you know, it's just like thinking in the moment, or even, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess like sometimes I'm spontaneous, and sometimes, you know what, I'm not, and I like to have a plan. So that's like it, isn't it? Like how you feel in one moment isn't necessarily how you feel the next. How you behave in one moment isn't necessarily how you behave in the next. So we're just human. We're just trying to learn.
We are just human. We are just human. So I did go off piece there. So we are spontaneous. There we go. We are very spontaneous. We've gone completely off the format. But I just thought that was something I wanted to get off my chest. But I'll go ahead with some learning. So we've had some, like Shelby said, you know, we've had some interesting experiences and learnings, and I think that's the fun of this episode, is we can share those weird and wonderful stories and learnings. So an odd learning that I had recently was we were obviously in Malaysia, and we went down to Chinatown, which seems to be in every city in the world. So go China. But I went into the shop. Well, actually, Shelby goaded us into the shop because they were selling vegan chocolate, and they had these. There was this glass cabinet that I stared at for about 10 minutes because I was just so confused to what was in there. It just wasn't clear to me for about 10 minutes. Before I spoke to the man, I thought I was looking at rhino shit boxed up, and I was looking at like bird sick boxed up, which sounds bizarre listening to this now. And I was right on the second one, not right on the first one. So basically, there's some Chinese remedies. The bird sick that I mentioned, the one I was right on, basically it's when the birds regurgitate to make their nest, as well as they make nests with sticks. They make their nest apparently with their saliva. This particular bird, and it was also almost like almost if you were to like
spinning sugar.
Yeah, exactly. If
when you have a nest of, like on top of a dessert.
Exactly that. Yeah, it looked exactly that. It looked quite nice. But apparently that was just bird sick, and it was just boxed up nice, and I was just like, what the hell? So I was speaking to the guy, and he explained it's Chinese remedies, and apparently full of a bunch of vitamins. And no, actually that was for collagen, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah, that one was for collagen, but it's super expensive. I think one box of them was something like 700 quid.
Yeah, none of them were cheap.
No, it wasn't like 60 quid. It was like, I mean, when we get onto one of them, I mean, we're talking thousands. Which I was just so shocked because it wasn't in necessarily a posh shop. It was just like, it just looked like a corner shop.
It was like a sweet. Most of it was confectionery. Is that the word?
Yeah,
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like snacks and stuff, and then they just had this cabinet of ridiculously expensive items. Yeah,
and that's what drew me to it, because I like the odd and the just the things I haven't seen and experienced. I like to get involved in them when I'm traveling or doing anything in life. So it really caught my attention, and the one that was probably the most interesting one. By the way, the rhino shit wasn't rhino shit. Apparently, it was a root of a mushroom, I believe.
Yeah, it was a fungus.
But I swear it said rhino on it.
It did, but I think that was something to do with the shape. It was like rhinocerosy mushroomy something. But it was like a Latin name for it, wasn't it? Yeah, it did. It looks like yeah. But because I've never really seen a mushroom root before. You just see them pop out the ground. But yeah, it was something to do with the root and I think it was to do with the strength of it as well. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it was definitely rhinoceros something, but I think that was more to do with its properties or its appearance.
So it was odd.
Yeah.
And the final one was this porcupine. Again, I'm not clear on what it was, but basically it seemed like the innards of the porcupine seemed like I think it was like its stomach lining or something, and when they died, they basically extract like either a stomach or this small... It basically looks like a rock. It just like if you were to find a pebble, it looked like that. But he was explaining it's like in the porcupine's stomach, and because the porcupine is, I don't know, he said something around being very good at eating a lot of good plants and apparently very good with dealing with any venomous things in the wildlife. Apparently, it's full of good shit.
Literally.
Yeah, literally good shit. And he showed us this, menu of things that you would get out of it, and it had some weird things. It had zinc in, right? And
yeah, so it said that it was high in zinc, and then it was saying none of the other things, but what it was also really high in was lead.
That doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't sound good. I mean, I obviously totally disapprove of these herbal remedies.
Yeah, Shelby didn't like it. Because I was just stood there proper into it, chatting to the guy.
Like having to stand there nodding and smiling while I was like, yeah, people hunt these porcupines and chop them open. I'm like, interesting.
Yeah, I know, and I knew you weren't liking it, but I was really interested in it. Yeah. I mean, you had your vegan chocolate.
I did get my vegan chocolate, so...
vegan chocolate.
Swings and roundabouts in it.
So there we go. And but I'll leave it there because I felt like I've spoken a bit too much on this, but... The cost of that porcupine thing, the rock, which I don't know the weight of it was like a gram, was in the multiple thousands, wasn't it? It was. I mean, one of them was going for like 7 or 8 grand.
Yeah,
it was insane. And apparently, you boil it in a soup, and it gives you lots of healthy properties. Apparently, it even helps fighting back chemotherapy and fighting back cancer, and is good for chemotherapy. So, anyway, one noted if I'm in the need of some remedies, but yeah, an odd learning.
absolutely. And I suppose tied to that, in the Chinese theme, something that I learned, well, I realised that the building that we were in, we're on the 28th floor, so we were pretty high up. But I noticed that after floor 3, it was floor 3A. And then after floor 13, it was 13A. And after 23, 23A, etc. So it took me, well, I mean, we've been here 3 weeks now. It's taken me until yesterday, I think, or the day before, to be like, oh, hang on a minute. I think like there's something in the back of my mind about, I know there's a lot of superstition in sort of traditional Chinese belief, and I discovered that the number 4 is unlucky because the Chinese word for 4 rhymes with the Chinese word for death, or at least that's my understanding of it. So it's quite interesting that they won't have those numbers on, well, you just won't see them really. So, you know, a house number, I guess, wouldn't be number 4, which is actually my own house number back home. But yeah, like no 4th floor, even though obviously there is a 4th floor, it's just called floor 3A.
Which I just find hilarious.
But I feel like it's a thing in the States as well, like not number 4, but number 13, like because there's a lot of superstition around it. I feel like there isn't a floor 13 in a lot of hotels in America. I'd have to verify that, but I'm sure that's a thing.
Yeah, I've not picked up on that, but I've also not looked out for it. Like the number 4 here, I didn't realise it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't see myself realising the number 13 in American hotels.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting to know. Number 4 is unlucky here, and you just won't find it on buildings.
I just find that amazing how they've gone to the level where they're actually incorporating the change of designs and infrastructure of the city over the number 4.
Yeah.
Like that's just wild to me.
And the fact that, because I don't think it's like particularly a thing in Malaysia. So, you know, why it's transpired here also, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know why that is, but from what we have experienced so far, the Chinese, the Chinese people are well integrated into where we've been in Asia so far.
Yeah, like in Singapore. And
yeah, well, Singapore, sure. Malaysia, there's been days where we felt like we're in China.
Yeah, particularly in Chinatown, obviously.
Yeah, obviously in China. And the reason we say that is because, there's an amazing, diverse cuisine, but there is so much, there are so much sections of the cities that are just Chinese food, and it is, a big Chinese community, a lot of interesting Chinese shops and markets, and that's not always in Chinatown, it just seems to be, Chinese New Year, naturally you'd expect it to be bigger here, but it's been massive.
Yeah.
We learned that, it just celebrated for a month. So there's been fireworks going on every day since we've been here. It stopped about a week ago.
Yeah.
But every day for the last month, there's been fireworks. And so, yeah, definitely it's very, Chinese community is very integrated and wider than China within Asia. We've definitely felt that impact.
For sure. So that's my interest in learning about China and, unlucky numbers.
I think there might be a penguin in this bed.
Well, darling, if there's a penguin in the bed, then we need to do something about it. What does that mean, Scott? Share with the listener.
Well, it was actually you that remembered this. So why don't you go ahead, because I'll butcher it.
Well, what's funny is neither of us can fully remember this, and there is no information online about it.
No.
But when we were in Dubai, I think I mentioned in one of the podcasts anyway, that when we arrived in the airport, there was a guy there on like a kiosk, and he invited us to come and view this hotel, and in exchange for having a tour of this hotel, listening to their pitch for an hour, then you get like a voucher to do an activity and whatever. But the guy that was showing us around the hotel, his name was Harrison. I remember that because I said my cousin's called Harrison. And he was from the Dominican Republic, and we just got chatting because obviously, like, he's doing his long pitch and his hard sell, or building up to his hard sell. Like, showed us all around the hotel. We had free drinks, and when we were up in like their sort of rooftop bar, He was just talking about moving here with his family, his wife and his daughter, and we're like, what's the secret to a happy marriage? A lot of people in Dubai share this with us without us asking. You know, we got a lot of unsolicited marriage advice. Just thought, why not we'll ask this guy? And he said, don't let there be a penguin in the bed. And we interpreted that as kind of like, you know, if there's an elephant in the room. And he said it's when there's a penguin in the bed, it makes your relationship go cold. So, like, you know, don't go to bed angry. Don't allow there to be that penguin in your bed making things cold. Like, always be there for one another. And that's my summary of it.
I like it. You know, at first I was like, that sounds daft, but I think now you've articulated it to me again. I like it. I think it's a great piece of advice.
I think so. Like, you know, you hear all the time, don't go to bed angry, but I think having that metaphor of there being a penguin in the bed, like, it's, you know, I love penguins, don't get me wrong. But yeah, it would make the bed pretty cold, wouldn't it?
It would. And I think that's, you know, I think that's what then drives passive aggression in, you know, relationships. And that, you know, that's with both partners and, you know, mothers and, you know, friends, whoever, you know, you've got a relationship with. And I think that's, once you get to the passive aggression stage, you know, if, you know, you can be passive aggressive for a day, sure, you know, maybe you've really rubbed each other up the wrong way, yeah, it's going to happen. But if it's a continuous passive aggression, day on, day out, then I feel like you've got a penguin in the bed. Yeah,
for sure.
And if you don't fix that penguin, those penguins are going to, you know, they're going to migrate. Not migrate, procreate. You're going to procreate in your bed, and there's all of a sudden going to be so many, you're going to get confused which one's which, and then that.
And then the penguins will start leaving post-it notes on things.
Yeah, they'll start, you know, leaving, you know, wreckages all the way through the relationship. So I think, I you know, the more I'm talking about it, I really like it.
Yeah, I think it's sweet. It's a nice way of looking at it. So that was an interesting learning that we got from the guy in Dubai. I feel like I'm just doing all the talking now because the next bullet point is for
it's me. Nice. I think it's nice because I think I can naturally talk quite a bit, whereas I think you're a lot more concise, which is definitely a skill I feel like I wish I had. I do like to ramble, so no, it's good that you're talking more because I will make up for that later.
Okay. Well, I will then share just about Grab, I guess. So Grab is the app that we've been using. It's a rideshare app that's been consistent in Indonesia, Singapore, and here in Malaysia. In Indonesia and Singapore, super convenient. Like, literally, you're not waiting more than 5 minutes ever for a taxi. But in Malaysia, we found it's really hard. Like, I've been waiting half an hour sometimes for a taxi, you know, just for it to even find the taxi on the app when it's looking. And a couple of weeks ago, I was getting a taxi into town, and again, it normally says like 14 minutes, it'll tell you, but then they just don't arrive within 14 minutes. You can see the car on there, but you know, it's not an accurate estimate of how long they're going to be. So I was waiting this one day for half an hour for this car to come, and when he finally arrived, I got in the taxi, and he said, "Where are you going?" So I said where I was going. I said, "Can I just double check who it's for?" You know, I always try and get him to verify my name, so it's not someone, you know, that's randomly got the same license plate. I don't know, but the guy just like came at me like super aggressively, like, "Where are you going? Like, this isn't what you put." So the one place that I knew in town was there was a Steinway and Sons piano store. I thought, right, I'll pop that in. That's right in the centre of where I want to be. You know, I'm pretty sure there won't be multiple ones of those. Like, you know, if I put in, I'm trying to think of a shop, Typo, for example, there might be more than one Typo shop. So I told him the place. It was like, but it's over here. And I said, well, the one in Bukit Bintang. He was like, yeah, this isn't Bukit Bintang. Where did you? And he's like huffing and puffing and sighing. He's like, who booked this taxi? And I was like, I did. And I was like, can I change the location? And he was just like, and then I realised actually I wasn't comfortable being in that car anymore. I was like, pull over, I want to get out. I'm going to cancel the taxi. And he did, thankfully. But then I tried opening the door and it was locked. I was like, shit. But he did instantly unlock it when he realised, because it must just be an automatic safety feature. And then I couldn't figure out how to cancel it. He was like, have you cancelled? Have you cancelled? And I was like, I freaking figure it out. So eventually I just ended up putting my destination as where he picked me up from. I was like, right, I've changed it. You're here. I'm off. I don't know. I didn't just get out, but like it was a really stressful situation. Made me really uncomfortable. Like it shook me up. So I just went and sat in the coffee house where I got picked up from, and I had a drink and ordered another taxi. But what we found, he's the only, like, well, aside from one guy who went on a massive rant. Anyway, I'll not get into him. But generally speaking, they've been friendly. But we found that drivers are either super chatty, as in do not shut up, like won't even let you have a minute's rest for your mind, or say nothing at all.
Yeah, I've not been a fan of the taxi drivers in Malaysia. I think most of them have been knobs. Yeah, and you're right. It's either they chat for England or they don't chat at all, which I'm fine with the silence. You know, it's absolutely fine.
Silence is exactly what you want from a taxi driver.
Yeah, it is preferable, isn't it? And providing they're a nice person, then just go, you know, but yeah, I think the majority of our taxi drivers have been challenging. They've not all been like nuts. I would only say there's been two. One that you experienced, another one we experienced together. He was just a racist old man. And the rest, they're just a bit awkward, which taxi drivers can be sometimes, but it's just been consistent here. Whereas other places, you know, of course you're going to get a bad taxi driver every now and then, you know, but here it seems quite consistently bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a shame because we love Malay, we're loving it here, but Grab is just not working out for us.
No, and it's funny because like everyone else is super friendly. Like it's just the.
Oh yeah, the locals. Yeah, by the way, the locals are this example in Malay is not a fair representation on the community here. Everyone, like in the shops, in the restaurants, in the reception, you know, anywhere, you know, just on the streets, you know, travel, super, super nice, welcoming, want to help you out. Yeah, so it's not a fair reflection on Malaysia as a whole.
What we have learned though, which is useful, is that on the Grab you can actually select quiet ride. Yeah,
that's a funny setting.
I feel like that should be on. They need to put that on Uber.
Yeah, well, I think they should put that in barber apps as well. You know, like haircutting apps. You know, like we use Booksy at home. You should be able to add those settings to like those sort of things.
Yeah, to avoid like the awkward. You know, you don't want to arrive and say, "Hey, can we please not talk through this haircut?" But if you just set it in advance. Exactly,
because I have friends who get super uncomfortable about it. Like they just want to get the haircut. Like they're not, you know, they're super social. You know, they're social, but they don't like, you know, that intimate. You know, trying to figure out how to, you know, navigate a conversation with. They don't really know. I don't really care for having a conversation with. So, yeah, I think it's, you know, I'll just rant on to anyone. But yeah, I think it'd be a nice feature for like something like that. And probably there's a couple of other things I'm sure it'd be worthwhile having it on a plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should just be like, it should pop up on your in-flight entertainment. The person to your left will talk to you, the person to your right will not.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
It'd be great. Honestly.
The person behind you is consented to put in your seat back.
That's the whole conversation, isn't it?
That is.
I mean, I really don't get why people are moaning, because do I like a seat getting pushed back on me? No, it annoys me. It does annoy me. I would prefer that not to happen to me. But I don't think it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it is there for them to use, you know, especially a long flight. Like if it's a 2-hour flight, all right, just, you know, it'd be a bit sound if they didn't. But again, I'm not going to kick up a fuss. But especially a long flight, you know, trying to sleep upright is disgusting. It just wrecks your back. I wish they went further back, to be honest. So why is this whole crowd of people saying, you can't push them back and you're an arsehole if you do. I just don't see how that's fair.
No, I don't. Because people, I feel like it's such a polarising topic. And actually, just our most recent long-haul flight, the seats went back, like, farther than any flight I've been on, with Emirates from Dubai to Bali, must have been. Do you remember? They were, like, practically, like, so we both kind of looked at each other and were like, oh, we can't do this because it's practically flat.
Yeah.
So they were great. But yeah, I don't get how it is. The seats are designed and created in such a way that you can put them back. And yeah, absolutely put them back up for meal times.
Yeah.
For sure. Sit them upright, let people eat. Definitely. And like you said, nobody likes it getting shoved in the face. Famous last words. But she, that's what she said, I think is what was in my mind.
No.
To lay back. Like, if someone puts their seat down in front of you, then you put yours back, and then you've got the same amount of space that you had a minute ago, and you're more comfortable. So it's just a domino effect, isn't it, of putting your seat back. I think it's polite to ask the person behind you, but equally I don't usually do that, because if they turn around and say no, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it puts you in a bit of an awkward situation, doesn't it? It'd be, if everyone just agrees that it's there to be used, then it's going to be very simple, because then everyone can just use it and there's no problems, isn't there? But when you have a balance of people that do agree with it and don't agree on it a plane, you're just going to have contention.
Yeah.
Because if you pull back up, push back up on against someone who disagrees with it, they're going to kick up a fuss. And I have faced that on that last plane. I think it was our latest, one of the recent ones. He never got up and spoke to me, but he made it clear. He did a couple of things. So one, the standard one, is they put the knee right up against the back of your chair, so you can't lean it back. I've had that. I've done it before when I was against it. So they put their knee, and I could feel it, and I was just pushing it back, and I could feel his resistance. So that was one thing he kept doing. And two, he actually ended up moving. I don't know if you realise this.
No.
He actually ended up moving. Again, he didn't ever stand up and speak to me, but he verbalised
Yeah.
And he did when I was asleep when dinner came. He was like, I got woken up by a staff, and I could see him communicating to her, like, come on, like, why is he down, this, all this. So again, he never went face to face with me, but he made it very obvious he was pissed. And then he ended up moving. He ended up moving elsewhere. I was like, geez, Brett, like, I did. And again, this is getting into a pet hate, is it really infuriates me when people are so impatient on getting on and off planes. Like, who the fuck cares that you're going to get off 2 minutes later? We're all going to get on and we're all going to get off. Like, they're not going to leave without you, and they're not going to leave with you on it. Like, it infuriates me. And people who argue, like, oh, you've been on for 8 hours, I've got kids. What's another 2 minutes going to do? Who fucking get, like, another 2 minutes? Or instead, you force yourself out. You stress the rest of the plane out because everyone's trying to rush. And you make more people stress. Like, just chill the fuck out. It's part of the plane process. If you're that bothered, then book first class.
Yeah.
I think people's impatience really infuriate me. And we've got to a point where we just laugh at it. And what we do is getting on the plane, we don't wait for our zone to be called. We just sit there and we wait for the entire queues to die down. So we wait for everyone to go, because people will queue up for an hour. We'll just queue. It's the stupidest thing ever. People will queue up for an hour to get to a chair that's been booked.
Yeah.
It's the stupidest thing. We just sit there, wait for them all to go. We just watch videos on our phone, get up, walk straight on, job done. And we do the exact same thing coming off. Everyone's pushing each other, everyone's giving each other evils. We just sit in our seats. Even if we're near the front, we'll just usually sit in our seats and just chill out. I'll even leave the film on until everyone's off. I'll just still stay in my film. Because again, I can't be asked to stress. They'll all stress each other out, and then we just get off. We really leisurely get off, get our stuff very nicely. Because
then as well, your case will be out by the time, like you think, oh,
exactly.
You rush to get through, and then you're all stood there waiting for your cases to come off anyway.
Exactly.
So, hours are often already taken off for us. It's great.
It's
we don't
great.
even have to wait for it.
No, we don't, because they do. Again, your luggage isn't going to get lost. They just put it in a neat pile. It's fucking great. So, yeah, if you get in a plane, chill out.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, a mode of transport. It's no different to a train or a boat or a car. Just chill out and have some fun.
Yeah. I mean, it did nearly backfire on our most recent flight in that they were queuing for an hour, nothing moved. I went to the toilet, came back, and everybody was on the plane.
Yeah. Yeah, they
that was an alarming thing to come back to. Like, literally, the queue hadn't moved for the hour that we'd been there, but people just stood waiting for it to start. And then they had like 5 people just like, it was like Aldi checkout workers getting people in the way, getting everyone on the plane.
Yeah, every airline is different, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, that one was an odd one. Yeah, I mean, I could still get into more pet hates of airlines. Another pet hate I have of airlines are, and it's interesting because I've heard this on another podcast by someone. Stephen Bartlett has mentioned this on his podcast before, and it seems to only be in this profession, but I find that a lot of airport staff, no matter what age you are, will talk to you as a child. And I've not found that in other professions. I've not found that in any other environment. But in airports, for some reason, it doesn't matter if you're a fully grown man, if you've got kids with you, you'll be treated, not by everyone, but I found consistently in airports, you'll be treated like a child. And I just find it so disrespectful.
Yeah, that's true, actually, yeah. People are very condescending and, like, I mean, we've had some very nice people that work at security, but we've also had some knobs.
Oh, never go out of Manchester Airport. Full of wankers. Wankchester. Sorry if you work there. I'm sure you're a decent guy. The guy next to you isn't.
They're literally just so rude and so condescending. And, like, you know, there's so many airports that I've been, we are seasoned travellers. Like, we've travelled a lot. And only in Manchester Airport have we ever had an issue with security.
Yeah.
Like, so we've got everything out, but then they're like, oh, that pen looks like it could have liquid in it. Or like, what? Like, just the most ridiculous things. Like, yeah, we just not had a positive experience at Manchester Airport. The only redeeming quality, in fact, no, does it even have one?
No.
No, you know what I'm talking about. What's it called?
What?
No, I mean the machine. What's that machine? That you can put your stuff through without taking liquids out.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
It's got a man's name, I think, like a Hank, something like that.
Yeah, you need to look out for these, by the way. These are super useful. What's it called? Well, there's a machine.
There's a machine. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but it's...
Hearst. No.
What?
Is it Hearst?
No. We'll plug it in the description or something. But it's very simple. The machines at security, they'll look very different. These new ones they're a lot more big, bulky. Anyway, those ones, you don't need to unpack any of your bags. You just, you don't take anything out. No electronics, no liquid. You just simply put on all your carry-on and it just, examines it all. So always go for those queues because they're not all of them on security. Usually if you've got 10 queues, it'll be like 3 or 4 of them. So just look for like it's worth, even if the queue's a little long, it's totally worth it. Because I promise you, if the length of waiting you have to deal with, especially if you're behind me, honestly, I have so much shit in my bag. So all of my stuff that is in my carry-on is deliberately in there because if it wasn't, it'll probably just be pulled out of my suitcase because it's either big electronics, which can't be checked baggage, or like medication. So I have to get everything, pretty much my entire carry-on, I have to get it all out because it's all stuff you can't have on your checked baggage. So if you're behind a person like me, it's going to take forever. So just go to one of those machines. We'll put it in the description of the episode.
They look like an MRI scanner, don't they, basically? Like they're just like a much bigger, techier than the regular one. So I think they're pretty identifiable.
Yeah, they're pretty... Yeah. I can't remember. Anyway, we always look for them. So... Lots of learnings. And there were many other learnings we had to go through, but I think those were good, and I think we can touch on the other ones we had in another episode. I think we get onto some funny stories that have happened or some fun and funny stories that have happened. So, I mean, we've been up to all sorts since the last episode. From seeing Ed Sheeran, which was really amazing to see him live. From seeing Ed Sheeran to seeing eagle feeding. So all the eagles coming down as well. We didn't feed them, but we saw them in feeding time, which was really cool. To seeing fireflies. They're the flies that light up in the dark. Honestly, it just looks like someone's put a load of LED lights in a bush, but it literally looks like it's loads of flies and they light up. To blue tears. What are blue tears, shall we?
Well, blue tears I think are some sort of it's a microorganism.
Well done.
It's like an algae in the sea that is, when it's disrupted, as in like if you basically stick your hand in and swirl it around, they light up blue. So it's not a living thing, like it's not.
No, it's not living.
An animal or anything. It's plant life that lights up really bright blue. It's very beautiful.
It is beautiful. So we were in this boat that went fucking fast, didn't it?
Yeah.
That guy.
I thought we were coming out of it at one point.
Yeah, that guy bombed it. I felt like we were going like 100 mile an hour.
Yeah.
He was bombing it. It was pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, we put these fish nets, which wasn't to catch any fish, it's just so you could disturb the water. We put it in the water, and then if you sort of went back and forth with it, it would emit this blue light, and again, it just looked like a bunch of LED blue lights just emitting from the water, and you'd see it clear as day. I think it'd come, so yeah, that was really unique, to see LED light going from the water, just from from natural things, and also the fireflies again emitting light. So we deliberately did that because we just knew that would be super unique. It's probably not what Instagram shows it looks like. If you look at it on Instagram, it's going to look a lot more attractive than what it does in real person. That's not to downgrade it, but just be warned, it's not going to look what it does on Instagram. Instagram's probably going to turn the entire lake blue. That's not what it's going to be. It's just going to be wherever you're disturbing the water, it's going to emit some blue light. So yeah, I think that's a shame about Instagram. I feel like it does build up a lot of big experiences, and I think it takes away from the true beauty of them because you just added on that extra 10% that wasn't needed. But people now expect that when they go, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that good, is it?
Yeah.
Like, well, it is. Wow, look at this, but because you're expecting something.
Well, likewise, I think with the fireflies, like on the Klook, the website where we booked it, it showed you like fireflies all around the people on the boat, and that wasn't the case. Well, we did get bitten a lot, so there could have been fireflies. I don't know. So if you do go on these kinds of trips, cover up, because we've been bit like we've never been bit. But it was beautiful, and I think interestingly, like the eagle feeding wasn't necessarily something that either of us were interested in. It was just like part of the deal, I guess, on the trip. And for me, that was the highlight. I thought it was great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, they were just so beautiful. Like there was another kind of bird that I think you said it was maybe swallows. That's probably what it looked like. It
looked like it. I'm guessing a swallow doesn't exist in Malaysia, but it looked like a swallow.
Who knows?
Yeah.
They're beautiful with that shaped wing and everything. Like pure white birds, they were gorgeous. Just all flying around, and the people on the boat were throwing in, I guess, fish for them to eat. But there's one point that you said that'll really stay with you when we were like on the boat going among the flock.
Yeah, that was definitely a memorable moment because there were so many birds. Like, I mean, there was hundreds of these swallows, and then amongst them there was like 20, 30 eagles. It was, and because this boat could go so fast, this boat and they would follow the boats because they were feeding them. So wherever the boat goes, the entire flock would go, but they would go either side your boat. So we were going the same speed as them, and we were amongst the flock. And because there were so many around, above, left, right, behind, you were amongst the flock. So, and at the same time, they were just above the surface of the water. So it was just a really nice visual with obviously the sun coming down. So it was a really beautiful visual because you could just see hundreds of this flock amongst you. You're in the flock, you're just flying just above the seawater. I think it was just it was a good it was just an interesting feeling and sight, and it was very memorable. It definitely one I'll remember. Yeah, that was really cool. And I did actually see an eagle catch its own fish, which was pretty cool. It's good that I saw that and you didn't.
Yeah.
But it actually caught a fish. It came flying down, caught it out of the one shot off, so it was also pretty cool as well.
Yeah, it's so. I think that's something that's the wildlife in Malaysia is something that's really stood out to me.
Yeah.
The amount of wildlife that we've seen, like there's monkeys everywhere. We went on that hike. Do you remember what it was called? Because I ain't got a clue. The first hike, we went on a hike on Saturday of last week. There's a lot of steps. There's Scott's smiling at me because he thought it was easy. I thought it was really hard. It was just it was a constant incline to get to the top of this mountain, in my opinion.
Tends to be a constant incline when going up a mountain, my dear.
I suppose it does. But it was a lot of steps. It wasn't actually a mountain, it was a hill. But the elevation game was something like 300 meters. It was like, it wasn't insignificant. So I'm smiling at me. But yeah, just monkeys everywhere. Like everywhere you look, monkeys and some nice birds, just interesting plant life. And we also found that the next day as well, on the Sunday, we went to Batu Caves, which is beautiful. Like, yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's something that I would really recommend doing if you come into Kuala Lumpur. It wasn't far, maybe 20, 30 minutes out of the city, I think, something like that, in a taxi. And there's this giant gold statue next to 274 steps, I think it is, that are all painted different colours. And you go up these many steps and you're inside the caves. There's a temple in there, a Hindu temple. Then there's more steps and some beautiful open areas within the cave. And again, monkeys everywhere there, and they just come up, like they come right up to you and they just chill. They'll let you take a picture with them, and they're just adorable.
Yeah, they are adorable. They were. Well, you fed one, didn't you?
I did.
You fed one.
Yeah, there's a bit of like food left on the floor, and the monkey was eating it. I just picked up a bit and handed it to him, and he took it from me. I thought it was very nice. They seem super tame. Like, they're not fazed by people at all. Or like, I thought they'd be more interested in us, but they weren't. Like, if you had food, then I'm sure they would be. And we saw a load of monkeys swimming as well. Like, there was a section. It was a monkey swimming pool, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But these are all wild monkeys. They're not in any way captive. Like, they're just chilling and jumping in and out of the water, having a laugh. It was great.
Yeah, and they, again, a lot of the time you'll hear from the locals. They're gonna. The amount of times we've been told whenever we go to, see monkeys or go in an area where monkeys reside, it's like, oh, they'll pull your hat off, they'll take your glasses, they'll take your food, they're gonna bite you. It's just not true. They don't do any of this. The only time that I've experienced they're gonna do this is if you make it obvious you've got food, like you said. If they start here crinkling, coming out of your bag, they do perk up, which is, expected because, a lot of time they're in those spaces because they know they're gonna get food easily. So that's time, and obviously if you mess around with them, then they're gonna kick off. They're not, and also if you get near their babies. But again, we've never faced any issues with them. They've always been, even when we've been around their babies, they've never been aggressive to us in any way, stolen anything or anything. They've just been super nice and just been tame and just walked by us every time.
Yeah. They're beautiful.
They are beautiful. So we've had quite a fun-packed... That was actually one weekend.
That was one weekend, yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't actually...
And we've not even mentioned Mr. Sheeran.
No, I mentioned it at the start, but maybe not in detail. Yeah, I did mention it at the start. Ed Sheeran, yeah, we saw Mr. Sheeran, which was really cool. His staging was really cool. It's like... It was a circular stage, which I'd not seen before. So he was able to, look at everyone in the crowd, and the outer circle of the circular stage span around, so he could stand on it, play his guitar, and it would spin him around, so he would, consistently be facing everyone. So that was a cool touch.
Kind of like a record, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then centered in. Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was a nice touch, and nice that he did that, and he's a talented guy.
Absolutely.
That was spontaneous. We only bought the tickets on the night, about 4 hours before.
Yeah.
So there we go.
That was super last minute. So yeah, it was really cool to see him. He was supported by Callum Scott, and we just managed. Scott's giving me a look because he really wanted to see "Dancing on My Own Live." I mean, it's the only Callum Scott song we know. I'm sure he's got others that we'd recognise, but the ticket said it started at 9. So this is a tip: if your ticket says it starts at 9 in Malaysia, no, it doesn't. It starts like 2 hours before. We arrived just as it wasn't anywhere. It was like probably 9:15, something like that we got there. And Callum Scott was just finishing, so we assumed that 9 would be the start time of the show, and I guess it was more likely to be the start time of Ed.
Yeah, that was annoying because even when we looked up online, it all just said 9 p.m, 9 p.m, 9 p.m. There was nowhere that said anything about earlier. So
yeah, like if you want to see the spot, I'd get there early or anything like that.
Yeah, which we did question it a couple of times, like that seems late, and that's why we kept checking. But every time it just said 9 p.m, so we were like, well, it just must be 9 p.m. then. But yeah, I think that's unfair, really. I think that's a shame that the articles don't call out the pre-acts.
Yeah.
And you find that actually in a lot of concerts that you'll go to is it's usually quite hard to find out who the supporting acts are of bands. It's never really that clear. Unless it's like a big band in a big tour, they'll tend to put it on their poster. But if it's like, not the global bands, it can be hard figuring out who the support acts are. And I think that's not, you're trying to give, the advertisement to the support band as well, which in sometimes are better that night than the main band. I've experienced that a couple of times. I think it's a shame when you have to search through Facebook groups and ask messages to figure out, when they're starting and sometimes who is actually supporting them. Yeah. It's happened a couple of times now where there's been bands I've really wanted to see, and I found out where they're playing, and then once I've looked into it further, they're actually the support band of another band. I'm like, wait, what? This is the band I want to see. So it's funny that it actually has been a few times where it's a support band that I want to go see.
Yeah, likewise. So, it's quite a funny thing, isn't it? And then, yeah. And there's also been times when I've not wanted to see the support act at all, and I've accidentally, no offence to you, me at 6, but I've seen them like 10 times because they always support bands that I like. Like, I've honestly lost count of how many times I've seen them because of they supported, I think they supported Blink, Paramore, Bring Me the Horizon, definitely more that I'm forgetting about, but I've seen them heaps of times.
Yeah, I think I've just seen them that once, which was with you, Bring Me the Horizon.
Newfound Glory as well, as supported Newfound Glory.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of, but yeah, support acts are important. Support your support acts, people. Get in the promo.
I mean, they're at the end of the day, they're the upcoming big bands anyway.
They are.
They're the ones that are going to break through and become those global bands.
Well, Ed Sheeran, the first time I saw Ed Sheeran, he was supporting Snow Patrol on the roof of a hotel in Las Vegas while people were swimming in the pool. It was the nutsiest gig. It was great. And what I think is quite fun is that in recent years, Snow Patrol supported Ed Sheeran, so it's been like a nice...
That's nice.
Yeah, probably less nice for them than it is for him.
Yeah. Yeah. As a fan of Ed, that's a nice...
Yeah.
It just shows, what he's achieved, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Like, the first time I saw him was there, then the second time was Donny Dome. which was a slightly bigger venue, then at Nottingham Arena, and then finally in a stadium. So it's really nice to have seen all those different stages. Like, I guess the only place I haven't seen him is when he was busking in bars, sadly.
Yeah,
He put on a great show.
I think we should hear about Shelby's special Chinese New Year adventure.
Is this the second bullet point you're referring to?
I am. I think this is a very important one because well, I'm going to let you say it, but this is a very special story because it shows a couple of things. One, it just shows a core, who Shelby is, she just comes from a place of care in everything she does, and it incorporates into the theme of the Chinese New Year that's been going off for the last month, so I'll let her take it away.
Oh, thank you, darling. Well, we were just sat chilling or doing work or whatever we were doing, and I think it was you that heard the cat. I think you're like, that sounds like a cat. As one word when one hears a cat.
Yes, that tends to be what they say.
So
there's something interesting about that. I think you told me this in a cat documentary. They mimic the sound, the pitch of a baby crying.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do remember, and I think cats really only meow at humans or something like that. They have specific meows that they only use for humans, which is probably that one that mimics a baby's cry. But generally speaking, cats aren't very vocal with each other unless, they're having a go. But they wouldn't. Yeah. So obviously, as soon as Scott was like, "Is that a cat?" I bolted for the door. I was like, "I want to see this cat. Where is this cat?" And I remember we're on the 28th floor, and right down the end of the corridor, there was this beautiful fluffball white cat. I don't know what kind this cat was, but he looked like Gandalf in cat form. Like, he was pure white, beautiful, but yeah, just meowing. And so I started walking down the corridor, the hall to him, and I was like, I'm imagining this cat, like what? And then a lady came out of a different apartment. I was like, "Oh, is this your cat?" And she said no, but she's got 4 cats. So we ended up approaching this cat together, greeted him, said hello, gained his trust, and we were trying to figure out who could it belong to. I said, "Well, I'm here on an Airbnb. I don't know anyone." She's like, "I don't think anyone else on this floor's got cats." And she said, "Well, I think these guys are new." So we rang their doorbell, like, "Hey, is this your cat?" And they said no. And then they go, "But I think the lady in that apartment's got a lot of cats." And she was like, "Yep, that's me." And it's not my cat. So we didn't really know what to do at this point. And the fire door was shut, but then we were like, could he have come in the lift? We were just like, how's this cat got here?
But you need a key card to do that.
You do need a key card to do that, but if someone had the key card and the cat shot... Listen, we were trying to figure it... Thinking about it now, because you need a key card to get in the building, there's been a lot of steps to get this cat on the 28th floor.
And there's security before you even get into the premises of the building as well.
Security recognised.
So there's all sorts.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors in place that mean it's unlikely that the cat got the elevator to the 28th floor. But anyway, so this lady who had a lot of cats said, "Well, I'll put him some litter down, some food down." And there's from our apartment, if you've got the front door, you go out, there's a very tiny path, I don't know, 1.5 foot area for you to keep your shoes, and then there's a gate. So she said, "Well, I'll keep him in that area, I'll put him something comfy down." So it's great. And then hopefully, someone, if it's their cat, they're going to obviously see the cat there. So that seemed like a good idea. So anyway, so that's how that ended up ending. I go our respective ways. I come back to the apartment. A couple of hours later, there's the doorbell rings. I was like, it's really late. Who could this be? So we opened the door, and a lady said, "Have you seen a cat? I've lost my cat." And I said, "Yes, I have." I said, "He's with a woman down here." And all of a sudden, she burst into tears. She was really holding it together. But I think she was just so relieved to know that her cat was okay. And she said, "I've had him for 14 years. I can't believe it. He's just run out when I've opened the door. I'm new to the building." So I went with her to the other lady's apartment who got all the cats. And she was like, "Your cat's fine, but he's not with me. He's with a friend because her cats weren't happy about the cat or something to that effect. They probably started shouting about it. But so she told her where to go to get this cat and everything, and she gave us hugs, and she was just so relieved, obviously, that someone had found a cat, because he's an old boy, 14 years. So anyway, she went off to get a cat. That was the end of that. Next day, we have a ring on the doorbell. It's this lady again. I was like, oh, hi. I was like, how are you? How's your cat? And she pulled out of her purse. It's a tradition in Chinese culture to give what's called lucky money in red envelopes, usually to loved ones, friends, family. And it's so commonplace, even in Singapore, like people performing on stage and people going up and giving these performers
that was
wallets
crazy.
of money. Yeah. And they were just taking them, and it was like as if it wasn't like, obviously they said thank you. But if that happened to me, I'd be like, oh my God, he shot, like, thank you so much. But it's so commonplace in the culture. They
got loads. They were performing for like, an hour?
And
they received like 20 of them. And these have quite a bit of money in.
Yeah, they do.
It's not like £5 that you get off your auntie at home. It's like, some of them will have like 50, 100, even a few hundred quid in them.
Absolutely. So anyway, so the lady who had the cat, she started pulling out this one. She was like, oh, it's just something to say thank you. And at first I thought it was like a thank you card because it wasn't red, it was pink and gold. And then the minute I realised it was a money wallet, I was like, no, I can't accept it. And she was very insistent. She's like, no, it's from my culture. I just want to say thank you so much. And like, I really tried to not accept it. Then I didn't want to offend her by not taking it. And she's like, no, it's my culture. She said, it's not much. I just want to give you something to say thank you. So I gave her another hug and said, oh, thank you so much. And it was 100 ringgit, which is like 16 quid.
Yeah.
So it's, it was really like, I still don't feel great about taking it, but she was very adamant that it was something that she wanted to do. And she took one to the other lady down the hall as well. So yes, that was a really interesting interaction. I felt like we'd become friends if we stayed here.
I think you definitely would, and you shouldn't feel. But I think where you're feeling bad is at home. That would be an not unexpected thing. It'd be like, whoa, no, that's way too much. You shouldn't do that. But as you mentioned, it's the culture. In the month of Chinese New Year, they give, the money is, what is it, for good luck? Yeah,
they call it lucky money. So it's
lucky
like
money.
I think it's for prosperity for the year to come. Like here's some money. Hopefully get more money, I think is the...
Right.
I may have butchered that, but I think that's roughly the...
Yeah, so I just think it's a really nice tradition they have that. As well as giving to loved ones, they give it to people who do good. Mm-hmm. And you do so much good in life. I think, definitely, even though, surrounding family and friends don't take that for granted... I think at home we don't have any traditions, then obviously our birthdays and Christmas. We don't have any traditions where we would just randomly, give money or something. In saying that, your mum is very supportive and she will. So I take that back. Lindsay is very supportive and she will, treat, us, with meals and, nice little, maybe a night out on her or something. So actually... And
my dad as well, actually, give us some money when we...
And your dad, okay. So basically we've learned that.
My parents are Chinese.
You might be Chinese.
I think that's what we've learned.
Shelby's Chinese.
Well, my granddad did teach me how to use chopsticks.
There we go.
So.
Does that make Milo Chinese?
I guess so. My doggo Milo. Oh, bless.
I guess you wouldn't know if he spoke Chinese.
I guess I wouldn't know. I sometimes speak German to Bo because he's a German Shepherd.
Well, but that is a serious thought I have had in my head, that if you get the same breed in different countries, do they speak different languages?
For sure, yeah.
For sure. Oh wow, you are.
Do they speak different languages?
Yeah.
So the same breed.
Yeah, same breed. Let's say a German Shepherd in Malaysia and the UK.
Yeah, of course they are. They're going to understand commands, aren't they? And like if I said Milo, come here.
Yeah.
But if someone said that to him in Chinese, well, he'd understand Milo, but he's not going to understand whatever come here is in Chinese. Or like sit, for example. So yeah, they learn the language.
So they will, won't they? Yes. But obviously if you brought those two dogs together, they would be able to chat.
I I hope so.
It's
That's
not just going to be is it? Like, it's not just going to be a Chinese Shepherd and an English Shepherd. Like,
if they learn to bark different. Well, you see, that I don't know. That I don't know if there's like a universal dog. Like if all dogs bark the same. You know, I don't even know cross species if they speak the same bark. I don't know that. I really want to know that now. Like, why is there not a documentary on dogs like there is one on cats?
I think it's an interesting... I think it's easy for us to assume that all dogs can speak to each other no matter where they are. And I'm leaning towards that is true. But you do make a really interesting point that come here would obviously be translated differently in different countries. And naturally, if you brought a dog that's been brought up in China this whole time, bring it over to the UK, you say, Johnny, come here, he's going to go, what?
He's going to go, what?
You know, he's going to look at you, but he's not going to know you said, come here. So that's an interesting takeaway that we can prove now. But I'm leaning towards they will be able to speak to each other. But again, we know very little. I think we assume a lot in the animal kingdom. So I think we assume a lot. So
I'll tell you what, I'll FaceTime Milo and ask him.
We'll do that. We'll do that.
Sounds like a plan.
So I think we've covered quite a bit. You know, I think we've covered some fun learnings, some, and events. And we did have a bit more on our doco, but I think we keep it for another episode. I think just ever so briefly.
Well, I feel like you need to talk about this, darling.
Well, ever so briefly, I'll talk on this. But I do, when I eventually do achieve my ultimate goal, we are dedicating an entire episode to it. But basically, I am on a mission to run 100 miles. So I've ran for just under 10 years, I think 8 years now. I've ran. Long distance is what I love. It's, I enjoy just going longer and further. I love my trail runs as well as my road runs. And basically, I'm on a mission and have had this, this desire for a long time now. But I'm now like really in, started the mission. It's always been a dream to run 100 miles, but I've always surmised when I was going to do it. I always said I was going to do it around my 30s, because believe it or not, your mid 30s is actually the best time for your running. It's actually the best. Your respiratory system is most advanced. Okay, we'll go with that. Which is, in most sports, that's when everyone's tapping out. But yeah, in running, it's actually you're at your peak, which is really interesting. So I was always aiming it for around my 30s. I'm turning 30 this year, so I'm just going for it. So this year, I'm going for my aim is to run 50 miles. I've done a bunch of marathons in the past. I can run marathons, comfortably. They're not a breeze. They're still, they're still tough, but I'm running them comfortably. I'm not dead at the end of them. So I'm going to increase it by 5 miles this weekend. I'm going to be running my first ever ultra, which is a 31-mile run. The two differences with this one is, one, it's the extra, it's extra 5 miles. It's the extra 5 miles, which I feel very comfortable to do. I haven't done it before, but I feel I can definitely add another 5 miles to my marathon. But probably the thing I'm more nervous about is the heat here. The heat is substantial. And there's quite a bit of elevation as well in this run, which elevation and heat are the two biggest killers in running. If it's full of hills and the heat's out, I don't care how fit you are, you'll get blitzed. So those two things are hard. The heat, obviously, I'm not as used to. I've been, getting out and running in the heat a ton over the last 2 months. We've been in all these countries just to, condition myself to that heat. And now I'm feeling way more comfortable with it. I'm not like, I'm not like suffocating anymore. I'm able to run. I've done a bunch of long runs in it now. So I'm feeling good. I'm still a bit nervous because obviously it's my first long distance run in another country. The elevation, the heat. Also, we're starting at 3 a.m. in the morning, which is also weird. My body's going to be like, what are you doing? So there's a lot of new things, but I know I can do it. It's going to be a challenge, but I know I can do it. And it's my route forward. So that's the information I'll leave you with today. There's a ton more I can talk to you about. Obviously, the training, the the funny challenges along the way of just booking the runs, which is a whole different story. You know, trying to book runs outside of the UK, and running websites, basically, they're not great. They're, you know, there's someone who's built their website for the first ever time, so they can be hard to navigate. So anyway, there's lots more I could tell you about, but I just wanted to tell you about this today, which is actually not even going to come out. I just realised we're recording this pre-Tuesday and this is going to come out after the run, so that's quite funny. But actually, right now is before the run, but you'll hear this after my run. So on the following episode, I will give you a roundup of how the run went.
Give us a rundown.
I'll give you a rundown. So there we go. I just thought I'd mention it because I'm pre-run right now, so it gives you a bit of pre-run feelings. But I know I can do it.
You can smash it.
Thank you. I know I can do it. I'm getting a bit nervous, but I know I could do it. So, what a wonderful episode.
Absolutely, darling. Very interesting. Lots of things covered there.
Lots of things covered. I think we did very well. I think I'm gonna say this is our best episode yet.
Well, third time is the charm.
Third time is the charm. We now have to do the bit I hate the most.
Well,
we are gonna just eventually change this. I think
we should. From episode 4, we'll change it.
From episode 4, we'll change this, but for today, we'll keep it.
And we'll say
bye.
Bye.